Hi, folks, it's Dr. Christine Sauer here, and welcome to today's episode of Sparkles for Better Mental Health Growth in 5 Dimensions. And today I'm extremely excited to have Norman Plotkin on the call. Welcome, Norman.
Thank you, Dr. Christine. So great to be here.
You can just call me Christine. I'm a human being just like everyone else. Now, today's show is about the subconscious mind and how our subconscious mind can help break our sparkle and our energy and zest for life, as I always say. And you are a hypnotherapist and so much more. And all my guests, I always ask them first, why is you so very much passionate about doing what you're doing, and tell your story. How did you get to who you are today, and what are you doing?
Well, I'm a hypnotherapist, and I got here in the most roundabout way. I didn't go to college right out of high school. I went in the Marine Corps, and then out of the Marine Corps, I worked in the oil fields, and then a rock plant like Fred Flintstone, and then I climbed telephone poles, and then my brother was killed in a car accident, and it kind of woke me up. And at 25, I went back to college, and I was on fire. I got it done in 3.5 years. I was interested in government, and so I was a political science major, and I came to university in the state capital of California. And California's like a nation state. It's has its own very large government, and I worked my way up from clerk to consultant. Then I was the committee consultant for the health committee and the insurance committee. And then I went to work as a lobbyist for the medical association representing physicians. And I was very involved in health policy. And so I did that career, that trajectory was about 25 years. And what happened was I got sick. And I had cancer, papillary carcinoma, thyroid cancer. And interestingly, from an energetic perspective, my throat chakra, I spoke for others. I didn't have my authentic voice. And so the block which was in my throat chakra, the thyroid, and it controls everything. And so that's a very powerful gland/organ, and it really disrupted my life. My immediate response was, I'm going to fight this thing, and I fell right into line with allopathy, and the evidence-based medicine book says remove the organ and radiate, and and then chemical therapy with the hormone replacement for the rest of your life. And so that's the path I followed, and I then, after all of those procedures and dutifully going where I was told and doing what I was told to do, I just wanted to get back to normal. What I came to find out when it returned, 6 months later, I had another scan and it was back, and I had to have a second round of radiation, I-131 ablation. Normal was what made me sick. And so this high stress of the career I was in, the drinking, as a lobbyist, you got to be able to go to the cocktail parties. And anyway, it was an unhealthy lifestyle, and I found it incongruent with my spirit. And as much as I love the policy and the strategy of it, it's dirty. Politics is dirty. The things, are unsavory. And these things led to, my condition. And so after the second round of radiation, it's never just about the cancer. My marriage didn't survive that whole episode. And I began what has been a 12-year awakening and spiritual journey. And part of that was teachers began to appear. I had a friend who had gotten out of politics, and she opened a yoga studio, and she took me through therapeutic yoga for cancer, and she taught me how to meditate. The same hyperactive mind that made me a really good analyst and consultant and lobbyist was treacherous when you navigate the murky waters of a disease like cancer. And so getting control of my self-talk and my overactive mind and being quiet and still, learning my dosha, my constitution, and how to eat for it. Alcohol is like throwing gasoline on the fire for a pitta like myself, and which is my dominant constitution. And so learning these things, learning how to eat, learning how to care for myself, and what things to avoid, what foods to avoid, and getting control of my overactive mind. And so what that led me to was an understanding of the power of the subconscious mind. Not only did I read books like Wayne Dyer's The Power of Intention and Carol Meese's Anatomy of the Spirit and Deepak Chopra's Quantum Healing and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Brian Weiss, and the list goes on, but I read Joseph Murphy's Power of the Subconscious Mind, and I began to focus my mind and direct myself in ways that were more consistent with my spirit. And it was really difficult. I've had these gifts my whole life, but didn't understand them. And as a toxic masculine, the military and the oil fields, and I joke with that term, but it's easier for women to understand their empathy and their ability and their gifts. I've experienced all of the clairs: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairaugustance, and I didn't know what to make of it. And so these understanding the powerful subconscious mind and what led to the development of my cancer, what role I had in the cancer. And I moved away from Sacramento to get away from the drama of the divorce and, to regroup, to regather myself. I went to LA and I was there, and things just led. I had a contract doing some of the same stuff I used to do, and the contract ended, and I'm like, now what? And I believe I was divinely guided. There's a nationally accredited college of hypnotherapy in Los Angeles, and I found my way there, and I never looked back. It was rigorous enough for mine. You can get a certificate and learn how to hypnotize someone in a weekend, but this is accredited in an 18-month residency and rigorous enough that was sufficient for me to and my need to understand. You can't charge people for something. You can't wade into their life and their experience without proper training. I'll tell you, counseling and interviewing was, at the time, I didn't realize what a powerful class was, but the clients will tell you everything you need to know in the counseling and interviewing. And if you create rapport and a safe place for them to share, they'll reveal the things that often they're too close to see themselves. And so I believe there was divine guidance to the school and to my role as a hypnotherapist to help people with natural solutions. And I also believe, I study shamanism. I don't call myself a shaman. Harner's book, The Shaman's Way, he's an anthropologist. He takes a very evidence-based approach to the study of the anthropological study of shamanism and natural healing. And so there's what they call the shamanic healing crisis. And so healers often are faced with their own healing crisis that they must overcome. And that's kind of like a gatekeeper. That's something that if you pass this, then you have some of the foundational tools to be in the right place to help people. And so that's kind of, in a nutshell, how I found my way. Many people think that it's, wow, from lobbyist to hypnotherapist. For me, it was a natural progression.
Thank you for sharing, Norman. That was very powerful, especially when you said normal was what made me sick. And then you talked about having a healing crisis. And many of the healers I have on my show had that crisis and grew from that as people, and I call it in 5 dimension. But in the end, it's a connection to the spiritual realm that we humans at some point need, especially if we want to heal. And I love how you say that. And I'm not sure if it's really easier for women on average. On average, maybe, but there's women that are more unconscious of their subconscious than some men, and vice versa.
Yeah,
And
you get
I
in,
was one of the unconscious women that was more like a man, and that's how I stumbled across that. When it was, on average, it's true. Women tend to be more emotional.
it's hard, you get in trouble when you speak in generalities.
Always. I
Yeah.
do that all the time. And often I say it depends, and it really does. And I love how you focus on the individual, and all healing has to be individual. And that's where modern medicine often fails. And you exemplified that with your thyroid cancer story. Now, what happened to that after the relapse? You still have it? Did it go away?
Well, that was 2011 was the original surgery, and 2012 was the second round of radiation. And so, at this point, I'm reaching the Curie maximums in terms of the amount of radiation I can withstand. So that's not really a route. So, I manage my blood. I have, someone look through at my labs and look for tumor markers and TH and TSH levels and whatnot. And I live a different lifestyle. And I have a TCM practitioner to traditional Chinese medicine, and I undergo acupuncture and cupping and herbal medicines, and I eat well, and I exercise, and I meditate, and all of these things that create wellness.
I think you work in a field that truly aligns with your passion and purpose. And I know how satisfying it is to help others heal themselves, or let the divine heal through our hands, because it's not us, even as doctors, healers, or whatever, that heal. It's the universe through our hands and the patient themselves.
Yes, I'm a vessel. And, I read Eckhart Tolle too, Awakening to Your Essential Purpose. But until you find it, you can read the book 10 times, but I've found my soul's purpose. And so cancer is a message. And if you don't learn and understand and hear the message, it won't turn out well for you. And so
it is really amazing how you did that. And it's important for the listeners to know that every human produces cancer cells every day. It is normal to have some cancer cells, usually at undetectable levels. And only when our innate immune system and our regulation and the body breaks down, then is when it can come out. And yes, cancer was always there, and there's tons of factors that can contribute. But we have to have a very individualized and targeted approach to it. Now, let's go back to the unconscious. The unconscious mind is a very fascinating topic. And I know you work with the materials to do regressive therapies, past life regressions. And I did not believe in it until I read Brian Weiss's book and was fortunate to hear him actually speak in New York. And I thought, that man is a real deal. And that's when you really realize there's so much more going on than what we little humans know, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So I saw him speak also in Pasadena at a Hay House conference, and it was the morning session, and the place was packed, and there were I don't know 500-600 people in the auditorium, and he did a group regression. It was really powerful. So let's talk about the subconscious mind for a moment. There's the conscious mind that we believe is in control. That's characterized by
we believe is in control.
Yes, right. That's the belief system, right? And so it's where logic, reason, analysis, decision making, willpower, all of these things are the realm of the conscious mind. We believe they're in control, but our bodies take in through our 5 senses information, and the conscious mind categorizes it and organizes it, and then it compares it to the subconscious mind. And if it doesn't comport with your programming that's laid down from the time you're born until about 8 or 9 years old, if the information that the conscious mind is bringing in doesn't comport with the subconscious mind, it will reject it. It'll create a rationalization. I'll give you an example. You're not born liking cigarettes, but somewhere along the line, your programming made it okay. And now, even though the package says, the Surgeon General says this is going to kill you, you pop one out and you light it up and you smoke away. And your mind creates a rationalization. Well, Aunt Sally smoked 2 packs a day and she lived until she was 93. Or I was going to die anyway. I'll just be old. Well, it doesn't work that way. And so the subconscious mind, it controls everything. The autonomic nervous system, your involuntary operations are controlled by the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind always wants to bring you back to homeostasis. So you have a temperature, the subconscious mind recalibrates you back to 98.6 or thereabouts. And ask any 5-year-old who's threatened to commit suicide by holding their breath. Sorry, the subconscious mind is going to make you gasp. And so, at any rate, the same physiological homeostasis processes of the subconscious mind operate on the behavioral side. And so, for example, you don't have to keep learning how to ride a bike. You learn how to ride a bike, you give it to the subconscious mind, and you do it. Any repetitive activity, any sport, any performer, musician, anyone who does anything with repetition and seeking to advance their abilities, that's the realm of the subconscious mind. Ask an athlete about being in the zone, or a musician. They go there, they go someplace, they turn it over to the subconscious mind. And so while that's very powerful on the upside, on the downside, we can have a traumatic experience and we develop a coping mechanism. It's very likely to be maladaptive. But we hold on to that maladaptive behavior because it's what got us out of that traumatic experience. And so the trauma response is to always return to that maladaptive behavior, because the subconscious mind loves the known and fears the unknown. It's the same thing that keeps a woman in a battered wife situation. She returns because it's what she knows and she's afraid of the unknown. And so there are many, many examples of this. The danger of the subconscious mind is to get stuck in behaviors that are maladaptive. And so while on the upside, it's super powerful and it leads to performance beyond measure, it's also can unlock superhuman powers, like a mom lifting a car off of their child, or similar type examples where the body's capable of extreme measures under that autonomic response. But so the biggest thing that I do is in working with the subconscious mind is understanding where maladaptive behavior may have originated. And because trauma is cumulative, sometimes we have to go back through, we have to catalog and go deep. Sometimes it's difficult to uncover that original trauma where the behavior began. And so a lot of times people come in asking for regression, past life regression, and sometimes it's more appropriate to regress them to an earlier part of this life. And so but
to tell an example, not everybody's familiar with the work of Brian Weiss. Did you have a client where you actually did a regression and it uncovered something interesting and significant?
Oh, in a past life regression? Yeah, of course. People, our souls make deals and contracts with other souls before we manifest here. So, my son and I agreed to be his dad, and he agreed to be my son before we came here. And so we travel through time and space. Our souls are eternal. Our biology is temporary. And from my belief system, we come here to Earth School because this is where this is the realm of emotion, which is difficult. And it's a very low vibration. And so souls come here to learn and understand about emotion. And so we travel through space and time. Oftentimes I do shamanic soul retrievals where in bits of ourselves have been scattered across time and space through different lifetimes. But examples include I have a woman who is sure that she's known her husband in past lives, and we uncovered that they were that, but they were reversed. She was the man and he was the woman in a previous life, and there was infidelity, and that and there was intricate. A cousin showed up as someone else. And so there's fascinating things. I've also uncovered, I asked during past life regressions, were there any lessons that you were supposed to bring forward from that life? Do you have any regrets? So, and in typical hypnotherapy, the client doesn't speak. I guide them, and the experiences within their subconscious mind in the dream state. But in past life regression, I have to take them deep because I'm going to be asking them questions, and I've detailed questions. And I pass from one. We sometimes in a 3-hour session we can cover 4 or 5 different lives, and so I record them all, so that they get the recording, and it's super interesting the things that come up, and it can be beneficial. The chief among the benefits has been the uncovering of generational trauma. The Human Givens Project out of the UK, they've done a ton of research. It's very fascinating. They according to their research, they have the theory that in vitro, we're in REM in vitro, in late stage in vitro, and we get a download from our mother. And that this is where generational trauma can be passed on. And so during that REM, we get a download from our mother, and when we emerge, that can be part of our earliest programming. I had one client, very elaborate story. He was in his 70s, and he was still sexually active with his wife, and he was quite proud of that. But he was using the therapy to help, the blue pill, but he had blood pressure problems, and they couldn't put him on the thinner and the blue pill at the same time. And so his physician said, well, you could give blood, and that would have the same effect of the blood thinner. And so he went to give blood, and he was in line at the blood mobile, and he had a full-on panic attack, and it came out of nowhere. He had procedures. He'd given blood as part of medical procedures. He had survived cancer. These other things. He had heart surgery, and it had never been a problem. But for some reason, something triggered from his past, and he thought it might be past life. I said, well, let's start with this life first. And I regressed him back, and to this memory he had. So you have to uncover and the previous traumas and previous to that. And let's go back to a time before that. He was like 20 months old, and he saw himself standing on the front seat of a 1947 Ford car, and his mom was driving, and she had just gotten news that her brother died. And there was something about giving blood, and she said, never give blood. And he had this memory from when he was 20 months old. And so when he uncovered the origin of this irrational fear about giving blood, he was able to move forward. He was so grateful because, consortium was an important part of life for him. And so being restored to that was super important. So you see what I mean? The things that are available. Now, Dolores Cannon also, has a whole QHHT program. I went through that, and I went back. I've got to share. It's a little crazy, and I had to take some time to wrap my head around it. But I went through several lives, and there was some fascinating details about it. I went to war several times, and I'd left behind. And with all the grandeur and brouhaha of war and pomp and circumstance, and I was killed unceremoniously, leaving a family behind. And there was nothing glorious about the death that I experienced. But I went back and back and back, and I originated as a crystal on a planet a long ways away. And my job was to radiate love.
Yeah, lovely.
And I was asked to come here. and radiate love. And so interestingly, I give all my clients the Reader's Digest version of the Course in Miracles. Love is your birthright. It resides in your heart center. Its opposite is fear. In any moment, you can choose to come from a place of love or fear. Love gives rise to all positive emotions. Fear gives rise to all negative emotions. And so I have them come up with an image, a picture, or an icon, and just practice bringing that love into their heart space 40 times a day, because we live in a fear-based world, especially now more than ever. So
Yeah. Thank you for that, Norman. That is very powerful. And yes, some of the listeners will say he's full of whatever, but I know that what you're saying is real. And many listeners will also know it, or if they don't know it, maybe it's a chance for you to try and find out if there's something to it, because our subconscious mind, our unconscious, is extremely powerful. And we experience emotions, and our modern society focuses completely on the conscious mind. And in school, we are downloaded with all kinds of information. Most of it we'll never need. But the truth, like Brian Weiss and many, many things, many other sages and wise people and yous have said, is only love is real. It's the only thing that will heal and hurt us when it's missing. Wow, said beautifully. And I know you wrote a few books. Let us know what you wrote for books and where people can find them. And I will put them on the website below the video too, so people can find it.
great. Thank you. My first book is called Take Charge of Your Cancer, The 7 Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery. Now, it was a cathartic exercise. I wanted to get my story out to the extent that I could. If, my son saw a 5-star review. He was like 14. He saw a 5-star review on Amazon of my book, and it was from a woman who had bought it for her mom who had breast cancer. And she was so grateful. And it was just, like you could just see it was a tearful bit of gratitude. And my son screenshot it and texted it to me. And so I said, isn't that awesome? If one person's better because of the book and my cancer, then the whole cancer was worth it. So it's a bit of my story, but it's the things that I uncovered. So these 7 things I didn't make up, I didn't invent, but I stumbled on my way to them the hard way. And so I brought them together so that others don't have to stumble and find their way to it. And so it's learn to meditate, radically change your diet, deepen your spirituality, release your repressed emotions, commune with your subconscious mind, and get in rapport with your subconscious mind. Have a reason to live. Don't just not want to die. Not wanting to die is a fear response. And finally, take charge of your healthcare. No one has more skin in the game than you do. And it's those 7 things that if you apply them, you have a much better chance of survival. And you don't need to have cancer to put those things to work for you in your life. And my second book is Mastermind, Master Life. And it's the book I wanted to write first, but I had to get that cathartic cancer story out. And so it's about what is hypnosis? What's its history? What's going on in the body when you're hypnotized? It used to be referred to as largely anecdotal and attributed more to the power of the personality of the hypnotist than to any evidence-based procedures. But now we have functional MRIs and other imaging devices that allow us to know exactly what's going on in the brain when someone is in trance state. Dr. David Spiegel at Stanford is doing some fantastic research. Human Gibbons Project in the UK. We know now. It's no longer anecdote. And so in Mastermind, Master Life, what's the history? Healers since the dawn of humanity have used trance, shamans and other indigenous, and they still do. And so it's a very powerful healing modality. So what is it? What's its history? What does science say about it? And how can you apply it in your life? Mastermind, Master Life. And those are both available on Amazon in both paperback and ebooks.
That is wonderful. And I'll make sure that the readers can just click on it and find it. And let us know if they want to contact you. If they say, I wonder if there's an event in my past that I don't know about, and maybe you can cover it. Or maybe there's something going on in my unconscious that I can change. How can they contact you?
My website is my name, normanplotkin.com. I'm also on Facebook, Norman Plotkin Inc. I've got an IG account. I'm on LinkedIn. So all the socials there. If you look up Norman Plotkin, interesting. There's a couple others of us. There's a dentist and a lawyer, but I'm the only hypnotherapist.
And I'll make sure your website also, it will be on the video and it will be underneath on the podcast version, obviously. It was so inspiring to have you on the show, Norman. Thank you so, so much. And I hope many people realize that there's more to mental health than popping pills. It can be a whole transformational experience that leads you to a better way of living. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the opportunity. I had a business coach tell me that I should start a podcast, and I said, I don't want to be a podcaster in order to be a hypnotherapist. So such gratitude for you that you give this platform and that I can get my message out, because if you can't tell, I'm on fire about hypnosis and hypnotherapy and how it can help you. And I do sessions in my office, but I also do so by Zoom with people all over the world. So
if you like that information, no more excuses. Wayne Dyer wrote a great book, Excuses Be Gone. My husband always reminds me, what's that for an excuse?
That's right.
Contact Norman and get your life back in command, control, or let somebody else, a higher spirit, control it. Isn't that something? All righty. Thank you so much again. And that was another episode of Sparkles for Mental Health. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the podcast, YouTube channel, and I hope to see you at the next episode. Bye-bye.